All right, today we're going to talk about multiplying radicals. And basically, when you're multiplying radicals, let's give you an example. Let's say negative square root of 2 times the square root of 5. There's a couple of things you have to think about. First of all, you have to think about the sign of the radical, positive or negative. And then sometimes there will be numbers outside the radical, so you have to multiply the numbers outside the radical. I'll just go like that for radical. And then you have to multiply the numbers inside the radical. And then you always have to check to make sure it's fully simplified. All right, so let's take a look at this first one. So first I want to look at the sign. Is my answer going to be positive or negative? Well, this is negative and this is positive. And I know a negative times a positive will always be a negative. So I know my answer is negative. Now that I've taken care of the sign, I can ignore that. I've already taken care of that. Now, next I'm going to multiply the numbers that are outside the radical. Well, I have no numbers out here. Number 1 is assumed, so 1 times 1 is 1. So I could either put a 1 here or just leave it off. Next, I'm going to multiply the numbers inside the radical. So 2 times 5, but it has to stay inside the radical. So 2 times 5 is 10. So that will be the square root of 10. And then I have to look at that and see if I can simplify it. Well, 2 is prime, 5 is prime, so I can't simplify the square root of 10. So the negative square root of 2 times 5 is going to be negative square root of 10. Let's take a look at another example. Let's say 2 times the square root of 8 times negative 2 times the square root of 2, for instance. All right, let's go through our steps again. Let's determine the sign, whether it's going to be positive or negative. Well, this is positive and this is negative, so I know a positive times a negative is going to be a negative. I'm going to multiply the numbers outside the radical. 2 times 2 is 4. Again, I've already taken care of the sign, so I'm going to ignore it now. So 2 times 2 is 4. I'm going to multiply the numbers inside the radical. 8 times 2 is 16. And now I have to say, can I simplify this radical? Well, I know the square root of 16 evaluates to 4. So I know that that's really 4. So what I really have now is negative 4, just bringing this down, negative 4 times 4. So my answer is going to be negative 16. Let's take a look at another one. Let's say 3 times the square root of 4 times 2 times the square root of 8. Let's make this so you can see it. All right. So I'm going to see whether my answer will be positive or negative. Well, they're both positive, so I know my final answer will be positive. I'm going to multiply the numbers outside the radical. So 3 times 2 is 6. I'm going to multiply the numbers inside the radical. 8 times 4 is 32. Now I have to simplify that square root of 32. So now you can either use the birthday cake method or you can break it up into factors. Well, I know that 16 times 2 is 32, and I know that 16 is a perfect square. So 16 times 2 is 32. If I evaluate the square root of 16, it's 4. So I still have the 6 out front, the 4, and then the square root of 2. Well, 6 times 4 is 24. So now I have 24 times the square root of 2. So 3 times the square root of 4 times 2 times the square root of 8 is 24 times the square root of 2. Why don't you try some of the work below and see if you understand how to do this? If not, please ask us.